Do artists really have to starve to be true to their craft? Must the business side of creativity drain all inspiration? No, it does not. 5 minutes on creative entrepreneurship can help you master the business side of creativity, reap greater rewards from your talent, and enjoy your work to the fullest.
I'm so glad trouble don't last always.
Have you ever stood up too quickly and felt so lightheaded that you almost fell over? If you've experienced that shrinking tunnel vision as you start to black out, then you've felt the impact of low blood pressure to your brain. But what does it feel like to suffer from low cash flow pressure? Cash really is the lifeblood of any business. If you have good, strong, healthy blood pressure, you will be resilient and alert. But if it suddenly drops, you might completely pass out. Similarly, if your cash flow is strong, you'll be able to withstand the winds and waves that all businesses face from time to time. And you'll be able to pursue opportunities to grow and build your creative business. I'm Eric Holter, and I've been a serial creative entrepreneur for over 3 decades. After graduating from Rhode Island School of Design in 1991, I could cut and print beautiful wood engravings. But I had no idea how to run a business. They just don't teach enough about business in art school. Have you ever had a season of working so hard for so many hours and yet still being chronically late on paying your expenses? Those kinds of experiences are perplexing and extremely discouraging. Living with negative cash flow is no fun at all. It forces you to work long hours, all the while putting off paying yourself for all that hard work. You might start using credit cards as a cushion or consider opening a line of credit to cover your expenses. Unwise financial decisions are not the only way low cash flow impacts your business. It leads to questionable new business decisions as well. When you're desperate for cash, you're far more likely to accept any work at all to get that initial deposit check in the bank. And so you ignore the low budget and the telltale signs of a demanding client that won't respect your professional expertise. But what if your cash flow problem is not merely circumstantial? What if it's due to a fundamental lack of profitability in the first place? More often than not, cash flow pressures are reflective of profitability problems more than about collections or new business droughts. And if that's the case with you, then borrowing money will only deepen your problems, kicking the inevitable crash just a bit further down the road. You can get yourself out from under a cash flow crisis, but not by ignoring it. First, you need to get a handle on the full extent of your problem. And the best way to do that is to lay out your receivables alongside the expenses that you will incur as you work on your projects over time. A simple spreadsheet can be used for this purpose, and I have a sample Google Sheet you can download from the resources page at erichholter.com. Once you get your expenses and receivables in place, you'll be able to see the problems more clearly, and then perhaps begin to make adjustments to your expenses as necessary. But there are other things you need to be able to see in your cash flow forecast. You see, not all invoices in your receivables are equal. For example, your cash flow pressures might be exacerbated by an earned versus unearned revenue problem. Ask yourself, for each receivable you're waiting on, or have recently deposited, whether or not that money has already been fully earned, or do you still have a lot of work to do in order to fulfill the milestones that those payments represent? If most of your payments are unearned rather than earned, you may have an even deeper problem than you thought. It's never easy to face the roots of your financial problems, but until you can see the causes clearly, you can't solve them. You have to face them head on and begin to implement fixes, such as breaking up your payments into greater multiples than half on start and half on completion, or dividing your expenses into regular monthly hard costs from the more fluid, infrequent, or optional expenses such as savings categories or costs associated with professional development. Of course, bad cash flow is ultimately about your overall profitability, and solving that issue will take more than just managing expenses and receivables more competently. And in the coming weeks, we'll learn more about not just identifying problems, but how to solve them for good. So until next week, don't let the business of creativity overwhelm your creative business.
5 Minutes on Creative Entrepreneurship is a podcast by Eric Holter, mentor to creative entrepreneurs. You can find more content and resources at erichholter.com. His book, Blazing the Freelance Trail, is available on Amazon in print, Kindle, and audio. If this podcast is helpful to you, be sure to share it with your colleagues, and ratings and reviews are always appreciated.